You're listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast, episode 2, part 3. Enjoy.
There was a Harvard psychologist named John Mack who researched alien abductions for years. He had about 100 patients that he studied, and there's this infamous kind of photo of him, and in the background there's like a sheet of paper up on a whiteboard, and it just says "subvert the dominant paradigm," and like that's kind of what you need to do. Is like you can go with the status quo, that's fine, but I think the world is a lot more interesting when you can take in all of its nuance, its complexity, and question it and see where it takes you and kind of try to find the patterns that you can out of this stuff. Because like I think, what the public facing image of like UFOs and like stuff is, it was largely shaped in the 90s with the X-Files, and what the X-Files took its stuff from is from the 80s, which is a time where UFO research is not very trustworthy because there was a lot of government tampering, let's say. There was a lot of like government involvement in steering the image of what UFO research was at that period of time, and it became so prominent that it started to seep into like just regular pop culture. Like the main one of the most common images that we have of the UFO right now is a UFO beaming up a cow, and that all comes from the 80s. Like
I was overweight, okay, Rob. I was on a diet. I was working on it. God, like, you get one bad photo and the fucking thing goes all over the internet.
And then it just becomes this huge meme all over the place. It's terrible, but
it becomes unfair too, because the people that, first of all, the number one thing punk rock teaches you is question authority. I mean, Pennywise will tell you that. Fuck authority all day. But anyway, it's one of those things where you should question authority. And it's one of those things where we don't ask why as a society nearly as much as we did when we were younger. And when everybody's, I mean, even previous generations, we used to, we're going to war. Why? Okay. Now we're like, we're going to war. And they're like, okay. I'm like, do you want to know why? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, like, this is in the sky. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, that, why? Nobody's saying like, why is that existing? Why isn't it public information? Why do these things not exist in a format in which, it's an open conversation? Why is it a closed conversation? Why is it taboo? And why do you automatically mark the person who says, I had an experience crazy?
Right.
That drives me nuts. Yeah. Like,
exactly.
I'm like, they're not like the lady eating salmon over there. Crazy. This guy.
I get where it comes from. Because
UFO situation.
Yeah, because like from a hard scientific perspective, there's very little that you can glean from UFOs. You can glean site data. That's it. Beyond that, it's the soft sciences that ultimately have to start, asking the questions. And more often than not, like, people aren't happy with that because you're talking about like anthropologists, you're talking about like folklorists, you're talking about psychologists and stuff.
You're gonna have to start questioning the shit that you guys wrote off as, fiction from way back, and that means that like they're like, well, wait, if that ends up being true, then this statistically is wrong, and I've been preaching this. And I think they feel if they dig back too far, it's kind of like evolution. I think if they feel like if they dig back too far, it's almost going to upheaval so much. Right. And they don't want to do that. So I think they stop at a certain point, and it's easier. It's so much easier for people. It's like gaslighting. I mean, the government is like gaslighting all of us. I mean, they have been for years. I mean, look at taxes. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where if they start saying, this is not real or this is real, all of a sudden the people they branded as crazy are not crazy, and they are scientists. They're scientists.
Exactly.
They're studying different forms of gases. They're different velocities. Do they understand the amount of math that goes into that? Like, finally, I used for the Pythagorean theorem, guys. Like, it's kind of one of those situations where they need to start having that conversation instead of saying, like, Well, I mean, they're kind of doing what they, everyone laughs about the Salem witch trials and they're like, oh man, that was awful. They burnt all those witches. And I'm like, but the funny thing is back then, those were women that were like, I'm not going to go under a husband or, I'm going to
Yeah.
make
They were strong,
medicine.
independent women, and they didn't like. Yeah.
I'm a medicine burner. It's kind
Yeah.
of one of those things where, but then they had to go back and say, okay, well, maybe they weren't so wrong. We do need antibiotics. It's like, oh, but, and a lot of things too, like when you look at those historical facts, there's a lot of powerful women. There's a lot of powerful men. There's a lot of young men. And there's a lot of older men that have really paved the way in a lot of like my daughter's going into aerospace engineering. She loves it. I wish I could be a third as smart as she is in that department. And she's one of those kids who I've told her, I'm like, whatever field you go into, you have to go into it with an open mind. So I've asked her, I'm like, do you feel that in the progress of going into space that there will be, encounters with aliens? And the best answer I've gotten out of her is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is the best thing you can say. But that's the thing. I'm like, if she went into it, was like, no, that's baloney. I'd be like, switch your field. If you think that it is cut and dry, black and white, it's the same thing when like people want to go into studies about religion. I'm like, do you think this person is wrong in their beliefs? If you don't say I don't know, then you need to,
right.
Really, I mean, they're all based on the same thing. Like if you can't, you need to, if you're going to go into doing aerospace, anything, you need to understand that it's kind of like we were just talking about earlier, like whose line is it anyway? The rules are made up and the points don't matter. Kind of thing. It's like what you think that's not science. What's the scientific method is asking questions and doing the research and testing your theories and seeing how it comes out. And I think that's the same way a lot of comets have been discovered, a lot of planetary, adaptation, stuff like that have been done is by people asking those questions, which all, coming from people from a little sequestered village. We might now be burned at the stake.
one of the things that always eats at me, especially living around here, is like everybody has their talking points. Every single person up here has their talking points. And I remember standing outside on a break at work with a friend, and he was going off and off. He's like, they don't teach kids how to use cursive anymore. And I was like, have you ever considered why they taught kids to do cursive in the first place? It's because at a certain, there was, a long ass time ago, they were using ink and quill. Like there's no reason to teach them cursive anymore because they don't have the problem where they need to leave their pen on the paper, otherwise it's going to go everywhere. Like
you realize well, it's funny because like in even my grandmother's generation, right? So cursive was common then as print is common now.
Right.
And back then they all learned cursive and print was what cursive is now. So they were transitioning everybody over to cursive. I mean, print was like a luxury. Cursive was mandatory. And now it's like print is mandatory and cursive is a luxury. So no, you're right. Everybody has their talking points. Like it's
right. Exactly. And it's like people just have those talking points and they never think the internet's at your hands. You can figure out the answer to it rather easily, but you're just like, I'm going to use this as a talking point. And it's not an interesting talking point in the terms of I'm not an incredible small talker, but if this is the small talk that you have the solution at your fingertips, you can go and figure that out rather easily. And also going off they're not teaching kids how to use analog clocks anymore. It's because we have digital technology at our fingertips. That's what they're going to be using. That's what we use right now. And it would be great if they taught more of those kind of things, but
I set my kids up one year the Hunger Games with an analog clock. Did I tell you that? Did I ever tell you that? So I have 4 daughters. My oldest 3 are teenagers now. And they had this ridiculous problem of being late. And I'm real big on the out the door. I live in a relatively safe neighborhood. So I'm like, go explore. And they were late all the time. I'm like, when streetlights kind of come on, kind of mom, and they were coming home whenever. So I found this analog clock at a thrift store, hucked it up on the wall, put a battery in it, set it, hucked it up on the wall, and brought them in the living room. And I was like, you may go to your friends. For every minute you are late based on that clock, you're grounded a day. And they were like, oh, fuck. The looks on their face. And like, they were like, and they were just, it was a mutiny because they were like, wait, you can do it. No, you can do it. And it turned into like almost military style. Like they were just correcting each other. And they were like, well, that's a 1. And it was Roman numerals. It wasn't even like regular numbers. Like it was Roman numerals, which Roman numerals are regular numbers, just not to us like uncultured Americans, I guess. But it was one of those things where my kids were like, what's IV? What's VI? Isn't it the same thing but backwards? What's backwards? 8 looks the same backwards. Can it be 8? Like I'm like listening to this discussion and I'm like, wow, this is actually kind of fun.
Right.
Listening to them try to figure it out. And then, it was funny because now everybody has a phone. So they just got to the point where they figured out that you could just go on and they're like, oh, we'll just set an alarm because she did tell us what time to be home. So, but it was amazing the chaos an analog clock can cause now, which, I mean, I'm in my mid 30s. That wasn't that long ago.
No.
It really wasn't. I didn't get my first phone until I was like 17 and I got it at a gas station.
I got my first phone in college, I think. Yeah, I was like 20 at the time. Oh my God.
But it is interesting to sit down and just listen to perspectives. Like it's 2 ears, 1 mouth. Like that really does apply from the loudest girl that's ever come out of the North Country.
I think if there's a Hall of Fame, you're definitely in it for sure.
I'm up there. Give me my plaque and I'll at least pipe down.
I can't do anything about that, but if they could get off their butt and make things happen.
I think you can send in nominations, which I thought was kind of cool. You are incredibly present on social media for the most part. I'm incredibly present on social media for the most part. Very easy to find us. Like my username is
okay. I just need to say something on that. I'm an incredibly easy person to find. There's a Reddit thread about me, and yet nobody bothered to ask. Nobody bothered to reach out.
Have you ever Googled yourself, fool?
No.
Google yourself. Like I Google that on occasion. Like it's a blessing and a curse. Like sometimes I Google it and I'm like, I go argue people about me. I'm like, she is not. I'm like, oh wait, actually she is. And I'm like, she's kind of an asshole. Let me go back. You're right. Never mind. Total bitch. Like period. Like keep it going. Let's see what else I got to say.
I'll build my own mythology from here. Thank
you. Engagement. Yeah, no. True. But occasionally, like I will Google, like maybe like once a year. I try to not do it too much because it can be pretty shitty for your mental health.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where first of all, I share a name with a character that Angelina Jolie played.
Right.
I also share a name with a possessed car.
Yeah, but I mean like that car was pretty fucking dope because I mean it was able to heal itself. I mean, it's amazing.
I mean, I share some of the same properties. Like, I'd rather be like Knight Rider though. I don't want to be the Stephen King one. But at the same time, like Reddit is like an endless hole. There is no bottom to that. You will never get to the bottom of Reddit, I don't think. Because the second you end on one thread, you're on the next thread and on the next thread and on the next thread. And it's whether it's related or not. Somehow you start out on microwaves and you've ended up on gardenias. Like these are 2 very different things. It's like, well, how did you end up there? And then you start looking like, what is that guy from Always Sunny where he's got like the bulletin board with all the
yeah.
And people are like, wow, you really are nuts. And I'm like, wait till we get to this part. And then you're like, pretty soon they're like, you want to go for a ride to a place I know? They've got grippy socks. So
yeah. And those grippy socks, they are pretty cool. They're fun.
Oh man, I steal them every time I go to a hospital. Not that I go frequently, but if I go, I'm like, the nurses are always awesome. I'm like, listen, I need like 5 pairs of these to go. I have wooden stairs and I couldn't handle a topple. Like I'd be out of commission with a busted hip. Like I can't do it. So, and the funny thing is like kids our age, actually your age too, you're not that much older, are just starting to have kids now. Fools. As you get older, you're gonna have more than one, like multiples become more prevalent as you get older.
Oh God. And like
I don't want to litter a child. I've got children, but I don't want to litter of them. Like I don't need them all at once. Like I love my kids. I love being a mom. I love being a realist mom. But at the same time, like if a doctor's like twins, I'd be like, ooh.
No, thank you. Can we we get a discount? Like I'm one of those. It's
We're
like,
good.
can we return
We're
one?
going to we're going to Hojo's. Kids, bring your
Yeah.
bags.
Yep. Yeah. Just like body's going into like body's not working right after a certain period of time, and like
Where you
into
live,
your
your joints are
30s.
gonna start hurting.
Oh God, they already
It's
do
gonna
hurt.
rain
Like,
today. My knees ache.
yeah, basically, like that's
You're gonna be
that's
that
how
guy
you want to
around
know.
town.
Oh, great old rainstorm coming. I can feel it in the
There's
goddamn knee.
they're gonna start calling you the Robometer.
Oh God.
What's the weather today, Rob? Well, my left elbow hurts. Looks like sleet.
Yeah. Let me stand up for a second, see how my foot is. Oh God, it's gonna be bad.
3 vertebrae cracked. It's gonna be cloudy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I just the ones are our age that are just like, oh man, I had my youth to have fun. Now I can have kids. I'm like, maybe adopt. A little older.
Yeah, like
This
just
foster system's full of children.
just understand what you're getting into by doing it later.
Yeah.
If you've taken great care of yourself, even still, your body's going to start breaking down. It's just
I mean,
how
there's
it
a lot of
happens.
medical advances, but it is like it's hard on a body. And
Hmm.
I love that my oldest is she graduates this year. She's a senior. I'm old enough to enjoy a lot of the things she has, but she has her own car. She has her own license. She has her own job. Like
Hmm.
she, tells me when she's gonna be home. I know when, I have to be watching for her. Thank God for Life 360. Thank God it didn't exist when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, that is like one of those things where I'm like, this would have been shit when I was a kid. Everybody got it installed. Okay, great. Put me in. Like, and the fact that all these parental controls, I'm like, if you're not learning by having notes passed about you,
Right.
then you're not learning. At the same time,
No.
we didn't have revenge porn really. We didn't
No.
have like social media bullying the way they do. It's so
No.
bad.
Like I like there was no social media in my life until I was like um 4 years out of high school, something like that. That's when
Yeah.
social media kind of hit, and I'm like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't
I
have to
got it
go
when I
through
was like
that.
17. Wait, no, wait. I got social media when I was 16,
Mm,
maybe 15, somewhere in
mm,
there. And I used it for shows a lot, maybe 15, maybe 14, no, 15. And I used it mostly for shows. And I had my top 8 and I had my hair swoop and my funky colors. And then,
it
like, here, take a
was
picture of me in front of the
it
band and a
was
photo of my,
fun. Like
oh,
we need to bring back MySpace because like the controversy just alone on who was in your top eight
excuse me.
was
I'd
like
like people to know
great.
where they stand in my life with the top
Yeah,
8. Okay. Like,
exactly. Like
we're not friends anymore. You're out.
I want a social media platform where I can rank my friends. It needs to happen.
Yeah, not like dateable type. Like I just literally want to be like,
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't
Like
like you.
what have you done for me lately? You're dropping down to 7 right now
We
because like
also need to bring back the obscure band lyrics as statuses.
hmm
Like, how is she feeling? I don't know. It says, I've made notes and plans, which is one of my favorite things too, is misheard lyrics. So like that
mm,
Taking Back Sunday lyric where it's like I've made notes and plans. I always thought it was I've made love to plants.
yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you're gonna go hear that song.
Hmm.
It's like, well, I've made love to plants, and I'm like, okay, all
I mean,
right.
and it sounds like it fits too, because like
It
I
it
mean,
it's like perfect. So when I found out it was notes and plans, I was like torn between like, oh God, I've fucked karaoke, and at the same time, I'm like, that's a little less
not
intriguing.
not really. You just made karaoke more interesting for the
I
people
just
that are
yeah,
enjoying it.
it's like people like when they see you when you're on social media, you are under a microscope, realistically,
Hmm.
podcasting, anything like that. You're under a microscope. Your TikToks, like, I don't know how many videos where I have like, that was the funny part. I don't know if you ever saw it. So I was making an announcement video updating everybody about the progress of the multi-purpose venue last year. And I
Mm.
have so many outtakes because I just fucking trip over myself or I hate my voice, which is really odd, but it's one of those things where I'm like cringy. And there's so many outtakes, and I just clicked a few of them to be funny to see what they'd sound like, and I sent them to a few people because I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. And it would get to the point like I'd start talking and they turned around and they took that, was it like Lisa Loeb, I don't know if it's Lisa Loeb, but it's like and they propped me into it where it's like she's like going, you say,
Yeah.
I only say I only hear what I want to, and I'm like, fuck. Like, and it's cussing. And then all of a sudden there was one where I was doing it outside on the back deck, and the Canadian geese are going over me. So you hear
Yeah.
like, and I'm just like, fucking birds. And it was just because, having gotten that whole discussion about, migratory breeding cycles and everything, I was so over like that at that point. And they had cropped it in and made it this hilarious little video. And I just fucking died because I think it's hilarious. Like, if you can make some satirical comment, I think that's great. I think if you can't laugh at yourself, then, everybody else is going to laugh at you 10 times harder.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things. Beat them to the punch. But,
Right.
You're human just like everyone else. I'm human like everyone else. Like, how many outtakes does it take you to make a video? Estimated. Like, if you're making a TikTok, do you ever just get into it and you're like, okay, you gotta fucking
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, because I'm shooting from the hip. I never
Yeah.
plan the fucking shit that I want to say. And it's the stuff when I'm really thinking about it in my head, like how do I want to structure this thing, that I have to do it like 1,000 fucking times. I think like one of the
Right.
best TikToks that I ever made is it's like I think it was last year or 2 years ago. I read Peter Benchley's Jaws, and it is a fucking god awful book. Like the movie is amazing, the book is absolute trash, but like my reaction to it on TikTok, I think is one of the most underrated things that I've ever done in my life, and people should go and find it because like
You need to pin that
I
shit to the top.
oh yeah, yeah, because like I pinned all that Lana Del Rey stuff to the top, but I think I'm gonna have to take one of those pins off and put it on there.
Yeah, move that up to
But
one of the top three pins. Like, leave
yeah,
Lana, leave one of the Lana, like 1.2 million one,
yeah,
and then just like put that one like kind of next to it. So it's kind of like one of those things where people are like, "What about this guy?" And like they click it. I
right.
love, I love shit when people get passionate about it. Like I love people when they get batshit passionate about it to the point where they go into like a 30-minute diatribe.
Oh
Like
yeah, like
I'm like, take my time, please.
most
I'll move you to the top
entertaining
eight.
shit ever.
Yes.
Like, give me an hour and a half to 3 hour video essay on why you like something that everybody hates, and I will watch it. Like,
But you
there's,
realize that's also like the TikTok trend that you did is also the same thing. It's like, what did you like
Mhm.
that was cool before anybody else? It's that
Right,
small talk type thing. And those are the ones that go off. And it's the questions that nobody asks people. They're like, what's your favorite hot dog? Like,
right,
tell me about the time your dad left you in the car too long. Like those are the ones that people are like, let me tell you, and they're
yeah,
all about it. And I'm like, oh wow, we really are a nation in need of therapy.
yeah,
I am I am all about it. Like
mm,
I'm like, I'm gonna keep clicking. And that's what I'm gonna do. It's a doom scrolling at that point because it's honestly probably giving me more dopamine than 3/4 of the things I've done
right,
today.
right,
And at the same time, like to go to sleep, I have the weirdest freaking way to fall asleep. I have to turn on a documentary.
mm,
It has to be narrated with an accent. British,
mm,
Australian. Usually I go for like King Henry VIII. So I have like an obscene amount of factoids about like
mm,
ancient English history, which I really kind of don't care about, but yet sometimes I've gotten into.
right.
Like, I'm like,
It's
you
like
guys are
there's this,
beheading me the way that Catherine was, and in Anne Boleyn, she's a leader now. Like I start looking nuts, and I am kind of nuts. But it's so funny because like if I wake up at 2 a.m, I'll go find really odd documentaries. And I found one on like a place called Gloriaville or something like Gloriaville in New Zealand the other day. And it was the FLDS with an
mm,
Australian accent. I'm like, go on, I'm listening. And they're like, oh, well, we get married in a 4-hour ceremony. I'm like, oh, you lost me. Like,
yeah,
I'll just send a card. And they get the ceremony. And then the people who the elders pick their spouse. They don't have any say. And their names are very
right,
odd. But and now it's being called a cult. And now I'm like down that rabbit hole. And I'm like, well, hold on, there's more. And
mm-hmm,
so yeah, it's interesting because like they get married and then they have to go consummate the marriage. Like all the parents are like, everybody leaves and they go consummate it and they have to wear powder pink or powder blue. The fiance gets to pick dress and it goes to like they're it's it's interesting because then like once they're done, they've consummated. It's a actual far extensive Christian, like it's like FLDS, but it's Christians, not Mormons.
mm,
And once they have completed the act, for lack of a better term, they go to the reception. And I'm like, I don't think I would be able to
how,
guess
like,
what I did.
yeah, like you all know, so it's like I've got to live with your judgmental stares for like
Yeah.
the remainder of the evening. No,
Could you,
thank
but
you.
they're all communal. Like it's like a super cult. Like it's held in the woods. And like, the only thing missing is the Kool-Aid. So it's kind of one of those things though, where they're in the woods. They don't have the outside influence. They all homeschool these kids. Like there's documentaries on like the conspiracy of it being a cult. There's
Mm.
documentaries on the one I watched where it was explaining what it was. But they get married and the elders pick their partner. They get 6 weeks to court. They may never touch them. No touching until you get married. And those Christian shows where I respect everybody, where they don't, if they wait till they're married and all that stuff, that's cool. But where they wait till right at the altar to have their first interaction, it's always the most fucking awkward thing to watch.
Shit ever. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm not even at your wedding.
Have
but
you
I really
ever
feel like
touched
I
a
send
person
gift.
before?
I don't, but I don't think they have. Like,
right.
They just don't act it. And everybody eats in the same room. Like it's 540 something people in the same room every day. So could you just imagine like 2 days and they don't use birth control whatsoever? No birth control. They don't believe in it. So like you walk in the door and the first thing they say is like, so how was it? It's like, yikes. Like, well, I know what you did yesterday at 2. We were all waiting for you to have ham. I don't know.
Right.
Like, what else do you talk
creeps.
about? Like,
thanks, creeps. Like,
what are they?
I don't
like,
want
what
to
else
talk
do they
about
talk
that.
about? They have like the Bible. They have the same. They all wear the same dress, like all the way up from like infant up, same dress, same color, same size. Like even the Amish have some variation. They have no variation, except for when they're getting married. They can wear the powder blue or the powder pink, and the dude chooses.
I can't live in this disturbs the hell out of me. Like I can't live in a world where everybody is like the same. Like no, I can't do that.
It's seriously like a cookie cutter, and there's khakis and like just the amount of male comb overs where their hair just kind of, and it's all like to this and it's like short up on the sides. And I'm like, it's on New Zealand. It's on an island. They're safe. They're not
they're
safe,
fine.
but at the same time, like they're safe.
Man, that's just
Yep. They have like 4 elders. But this is the thing, Rob, imagine if somebody came up to you and was like, here are 4 women that you get to pick to be your wife. One of these 4. You have no other choice. And if the man is unfaithful, it's because she wasn't compliant. Like, or she didn't want to get pregnant again.
what the fuck? Yeah, that's misogyny, like at like dialed to 11. Yeah.
It's crazy to watch. It's like they work in the industrial kitchens. They have porridge for breakfast. They have the same breakfast every day. They have the same lunch every day, kind of thing. And it's like all in these big rooms, and they all live in like one of 4 hostel type hotel houses. And they just have all these children, and then the children live in bunk rooms next door, males on one side, girls on the other. And I mean, like those people that they showed getting married, 4 months later, they checked up with them and she was 18 weeks. I'm like,
the hell?
She literally got pregnant, like at her wedding. She didn't even have a chance. But
you
I
can't
guess
escape that.
Well, I mean, by the sounds of it, you can't in general because it's just either gonna take it or you're gonna give it. Like it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
It's very odd. The amount that they say darling to each other is like, don't get me wrong, I think it's endearing when it's like, hey, darling, would you like come into dinner? And it's like, instead they're up there and they're like, darling, God has made me for you. And I'm like, I think Daniel Tosh covers it best. He's like, what are you all going to do when you get to heaven and you find out God swears? You're going to get up there and you're going to be like, where in the fucking book does it say don't fucking swear? And he's like, no fucking swear. And I'm like, right. Just colorful vocabulary. So it's kind of interesting.
I don't have room to say anything because like half of my existence in this world has been centered around people who are forcibly taken from their bedrooms by aliens and subjected to weird stuff. And like, I've seen plenty of documentaries and things about it.
Yeah, but I love the documentaries. But it's like, I bet New Zealand has some cool shit down there.
New Zealand, yeah, because it's just kind of isolated there.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna have a cult, that's the best way to do it.
I mean, I here's the thing. I don't think Central New York has had so many goddamn cults. It's unbelievable. Like, a lot of very strange
Yeah.
cults have, it's where
Mhm.
spiritualism came from in the 1800s, with the Fox sisters. They were from Rochester. Um, the,
Goddamn
was it
Rochester every time.
the Oneida community,
Yeah.
which was, they're kind of basically like a Puritan sex cult kind of thing. They were very weird, but yeah, something about Central New York just brings out the cults, you know.
But seeing someone open to like what their belief system is really interesting to me. Like when I was
Mm,
watching this documentary, I'm like, wow, this seems really like optimistic. And then of course I always go to the opposing viewpoint too, like the people that have gotten out of it and what their
mm,
experience was. And I'm like, okay, so now I have an informed ability to make a decision because I've heard the good and I've heard the bad. So
mm,
until then, and I mean, even then, I'm not judging them. I just think it's kind of like me. I imagine how some cultures look at, like the way that they looked at like people like us. They're like, we don't think people in the outside world are attractive. We just don't think they're pretty. We don't think they're smart. We don't think they're godly or whatever. And I don't pass that judgment, but I just think it's so foreign that it's like, I don't think I could walk into a situation and a guy's got what looks like artificial flowers and he goes, gonna marry me? Jesus said so, or whoever. And I'm like,
right,
settle down, Casanova.
right,
Like, and also we can't seal the engagement. So don't touch my hand when you hand me the flowers. Just set them on the bed and I'll pick
no,
them up.
no, yeah.
It's too much. I think that there's a lot to learn from people that you need to do before you get to that point. But this is from the jilted jaded crows, one divorce deep.
Uh,
So,
People are very, very, very like, I think the one thing that school does not impart well to young people is how nuanced the world is, because they present things, and they kind of, in most cases they have to, like, this is the way it is. But like, especially in history class, like,
yeah.
you don't get enough time to tell these kids, like, you have to present an image to them. You can't tell them how nuanced it is, because you just don't
Mhm.
have the time to tell them all this like crazy kind of crap. I think that gets lost a lot in history classes. Like, with the straight up stuff like math, science, even like English
Yeah.
classes, like, they're there to teach you a basic set of,
Skills.
tools
Yeah.
and stuff to
Formulas.
use. Yeah, but like history class, I think they kind of just like drop the ball, because they have to present this kind of abridged version of what history
They don't
is, and
really
most of
talk
the
about
time
the fact
it's,
that some things are open to perception. Like,
hmm,
and they don't talk about the fact that, there's that always that saying that there's three sides to every story. And
yeah,
I hate utilizing that term, but the fact that there's how the victim perceived it, there's how the instigator perceived it, there's innocent bystanders perception,
hmm,
there's the person who's writing the history's perception may not be like any of those.
right,
So the reality will never actually be truly duplicated or documented because of the fact that it is never adequately written. That's the interesting part about video and
hmm,
videography and stuff like that, is that you really can't deny what you're seeing with your eyes.
right,
Same thing with pictures. It's like, well, she was, she had brown hair. It's like, really though? Like, yeah, no, looked really brown hair. So you can't really dispute that, Well, that's
right,
chestnut. I mean, sure, you could go into that, but at the same time, it's one of those things where, it was very horrific and you've got something that's very horrific on film that's irrefutable versus,
hmm,
what do we know of history before camera recorders? Whatever was told. It's the same thing.
right,
Like, I'm not even getting into the religion aspect of it, but it's the same thing when we discuss the Bible. People bring that to me. I always get people in my Instagram inbox, and usually I go to the requests. I do read those. And I usually will get every so often there's like spam accounts, the fake accounts. And
hmm,
I sometimes like to just read what they say. And there was one in there recently. I don't know what religion he was. He was something, but he starts talking about the Bible. So he must have been some form of, in the Christianity realm. And I've heard him out. I know he was, I don't want to say Pentecostal. Maybe he was like Southern Baptist, something down there. And he was very intense, that if I didn't believe his ways one way or another. And I said, I'm like, okay. And then he gave me some stories about some people. He kept sending me YouTube links. And I'm like, okay, but do you ever wonder why they sold more of the Old Testament than the New Testament? Do you
right,
ever ask? Like, if we look at it, if we're breaking it down on a theological debate scale, and then all of a sudden he's like, I gotta go. Like, oh, bummer. I'll send you a YouTube on it. Like, it was interesting because it was a lot of people want to talk, but they don't want to hear the other side of it. So they oftentimes end up on this, I don't say moral high ground, but like this compass of like, I have to be
Yeah,
right. And
right.
it's like, well, what if we're all not? What if we all are?
I think that's why like Dan McClellan is like one of the best follows on TikTok because like
I
he
do
knows
like
his
him. He's my
shit.
daughter's, he's like a relative of one of my daughters. So it's,
Oh, no kidding. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, he's Sarah's uncle. And I just think he's amazing to begin
He
with. I
is.
think his wife is my daughter's aunt. So she's like related to her grandmother. And I think him and his wife, and I like Andrew too, and their son Andrew McClelland. He was in he's. I just think they're really great people, the whole family. So yeah,
Hmm.
Dan McClelland is a good follow.
He
I
is,
like.
and like the way that he just like breaks everything down. He's
Mhm.
judgmental when people are being natural shitbags, but like most of the time he's just like,
As
this
opposed to
is
an
not how it
artificial
is.
shit bag.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's a difference between being a live shitbag and then being a colostomy bag, and like
Yeah,
fucking
that's
A.
true. One's a
Um,
bummer.
yeah, but like I appreciate like those kind of like academic uses, those kind of people out there doing that give you
Yeah.
a different perspective that you did not get in high school or middle school and
Hmm.
stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
it's blows my mind how like going through elementary school, middle school, and high school history classes, you were basically relearning the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again. It's like,
Mesopotamia,
yeah,
Mesopotamia,
yeah,
Mesopotamia.
it's the fucking
Okay.
cradle of civilization.
I love the fact that you're like, hold on, I'll get the solar system project out too. And you're like, let's
Yeah,
have that done. Because we all had to
yeah,
make that one out of styrofoam balls about 8 times.
yeah. Oh, so many times. So many times. Like it
Like,
would
are
be
you sure you know
cool.
where the planets are?
Like we know where the planets are. We've seen them. Like it'd be cool if they assigned other like
Yeah.
galaxies and shit to kids. Like it would be
Yeah.
amazing.
It would have been way cooler if they had done like events like, okay, we need you to replicate a shooting star in your solar system or
Mm-hmm.
something creative like that. But now is the age of Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will tell
every,
you,
oh,
if you want to go down a UFO rabbit hole and you want to go down like old images of people's encounters with aliens, Pinterest is such a fun resource for that. So that's such a fun tool. I use it all the time for that and like some
mhm.
of the weirdest aliens that you've ever seen. And I think that's one of the things that I've taken away from the topic is that like what people think aliens look like in the past that people claim to have encountered, they don't look like that at all. Like they're very
So they're
different
not a
looking.
flying cow or like a big-headed green thing.
No, no, they're a lot different.
Yeah.
And like the history of how people kind of arrived at that image is also interesting when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it and look at the people that influenced it and stuff because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that did a lot of good work for a long period of time. They
They're
just kind of
scientists.
yeah, as bare bones as scientists as they can. Like there were great scientists that worked to investigate and research cases and stuff like that. But it's just like went in without a bias to took down everything, and what they come away with is just like there are some people that encountered like 7 foot tall cycloptic beings, kind of like in there are a few cases in like South America of people encountering things like that. If anybody's seen the film Nope, and there's that scene in um the main character's barn, and like this this nearby, what the heck is it? It's kind of a kind of like a cowboy show or something like that. Like a rodeo, and they put on a show. They send these like kids out dressed in like these costumes that like they kind of look like hairy aliens. And the thing is like there are actual documented cases like this with hairy aliens that looked like it in the movie. Like I don't know if Jordan Peele did his research or not, but it was so weird like looking at this movie and being like, people have encountered that. What have you been looking into, man? That's weird.
Yeah,
Because it's
you'd be
like
surprised. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, what do you mean you actually have a hobby outside your job?
right.
I like Jordan
Right.
Peele. Peele's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So
He's
I would
amazing.
definitely look into that. That would be a good question for him. Like, did you
Right.
actually do this?
I
Or
I would love to interview like there are dream people that I would love to interview. Jordan Peele's one of them. I'd love to talk to him about Nope all day
why aren't you
because like
submitting a press request?
I don't know how to do that. But the
Oh, well,
second
you
person
got a girl for that. Lady over here. Hi.
I'll hit you. I'll hit you up. But the second person I'd love to do that is Steven Spielberg because if there is
That one might be
anybody
hard.
that has been more obsessed with UFOs, it is Steven Spielberg. He has put out more programs about it than I think anybody really realizes. His first
Wow.
movie ever like that he showed in his own hometown was about aliens. He's done like two movies and a few different TV series. His company released a documentary series last year about aliens. So like I want to know why the dude's obsessed with aliens.
Thank you for everything, for your time, for sharing your beloved trophy there. I would frame that personally, probably for safety's sake too.
Yeah.
Um, and I love the depth of the conversation. That was really great. And talking about an area that not really many people, I mean, you see it in pamphlets and brochures, but it's not really talked about too much. So
Hmm.
hopefully I will have you on the show again soon. We can talk about some more stuff. Hopefully this doesn't get weird for you and a whole bunch of people that come out of the woodwork. I mean, they're gonna
Yeah,
anyway.
this is my just disclaimer for y'all. Leave me the hell alone. Like don't no. You haven't engaged with me now up until this point. Don't start now. Just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Um I in general do not like answering questions about it because like I think I've answered every question that I actually can about it. Like
yeah.
you got it all here.
The
So
frequently
like
asked questions are really there too, and they are
yeah.
covered. And it's kind of one of those things where I think any other bits about like the metadata and stuff like that about who wrote what songs, where she was, et cetera, and so forth. If Lana
Hmm.
wanted to answer them, she will.
Hmm.
She can address them here. She can address them anywhere she'd like. Or
Hell, she
Jim
could reach
himself.
out to me. Get a hold of me.
She could. She could. So, I mean, doors are always open.
Hmm.
I want to say we're easy to find. That sounds terrifying now that you're saying what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it'll be good. I think it's great that you have that treasure, and I hope she knows you've kept such very good care of it. I'm sure she does. She has to have at least, heard about it through the
I
grapevine.
hope
And
I hope she appreciates that I still have it and that I still like yeah, that I actually do cherish this as something that, is I think important and has a significant amount of value, not just monetarily, but as like a touchstone
yeah,
for
there
pop
there are
music.
people back in your hometown that do genuinely support you, that
Mm.
we're not just the usual group, and we have some of the other smaller bits of you. And I think that's great. And congratulations to you for having scored that trinket. As always, people should be supporting their local bands, going
Yeah.
to the shows, buying the merch. Like,
Hmm.
seriously, guys, like some of the coolest stuff I have is stuff that I have conjured up from shows, or
Yeah.
taken from random places. Not like illegal taking things like, hey, I took a bench. No, don't do that. But at the same time, like,
Or like me
it's
when I would at the bowling
kleptomania is a
alley.
problem.
Yeah, at the bowling alley stealing the cue ball from the pool table.
Yeah, maybe do as we say, not as we did,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And really taking advantage of getting to know the artists that are in your area
Hmm.
before they end up doing it. Because you see stories like Chapel Ron, you see stories like, Lana's, you see other stories of really successful artists who came from small places and, worked their asses off and, played these small venues, which, shout out to everybody who's played for me and, worked in my career all the way up too. I couldn't have gotten there without the successes or the failures. So,
Yeah.
It's been one of those things where I can appreciate it. So Rob, thank you so much for taking so much time out of your day. I know I'm a chatterbox. So
I appreciate it.
keep in touch as always. It's
Mhm.
great to catch up with you again. And
Yeah.
shoot me a message if you need anything. And everybody, thanks for listening. And we love to hear your feedback. So thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast. Visit www.whoischristineanyway.com for access to all the social media links and additional podcast episodes.